Hi guys, so what we're going to do now is we're going to look at magnetic flux, okay? And this diagram I highly recommend you learn off and just draw on your test all the time, because these questions, they actually always change the vocab quite a lot. Sometimes they'll tell you the angle of the normal to the magnetic field lines, and sometimes they'll tell you the angle of the plane, so the plane to the field lines, okay? And you need to make sure that you understand where is the maximum and where is the minimum, and what are they talking about when they talk about normal and they talk about the plane, okay? So magnetic flux, what is it? So magnetic flux is a measure of the number of magnetic field lines passing through an area of a coil, okay? So again, so B is telling us about our magnetic flux density, and that's always measured in Teslas, okay? So it's telling about the number of field lines there are passing through an area. So again, that's why it says area, because we're this time is a circular loop, so we'll use the cross-sectional area of our loop of coil. And cosine theta, it's cosine theta because again, we want to rotate the normal, so the normal is always parallel with our field lines. So I want the normal to be parallel with my field lines, and that's always when it's a maximum. So just make sure you're good with that. So it's always going to be a maximum magnetic flux when the normal is parallel to the field lines. Okay, you can use Pythagoras, or you can just remember the rule that if you always go through an angle, it's always cosine. If you went against the angle, that's like a sin against God, go against God. So against the angle be sine. So again, because we're going through the angle, that's why it's going to be cosine. So if I needed to rotate this plane of my coil, I want to rotate my coil to get my normal parallel to my field lines, I need to shift it through this angle. Okay. So another way you can think about it is, instead of saying the normal is parallel to field lines, you can say you always want the plane of the coil, so that would be my plane of my coil, to be perpendicular to the field lines. Okay, you don't need to learn both. I would highly recommend you just learn this one. You always want the normal to be parallel to field lines, because I think it's always much easier to find where the normal is on your diagrams. So let's say we had a question where I've got a single loop of wire. I've got a radius of 0.2 meters, a field of 1 Teslas, and it's at 60 degrees the normal. And when I find out the magnetic flux, all I have to do is B, which is 1, times by my area. It's my cross-sectional area. It's a loop of wire, so it's a circle. So it's going to use pi times the radius squared times by cosine of theta, so cosine of 60. So when you pop your calculator, instead of using the radius squared, what we're doing is 0.2 squared. So on my calculator, all I'm going to do is cosine of 60. And you're going to make sure that it's in degree mode if you've just came from any of your mathematics lessons. So I'm going to use my own calculator. So what you're going to do now is you're doing cosine of 60. And you're going to multiply by 0.2 squared. You're going to multiply by shift pi and multiply by 1. So what we're going to get there is 0.06 Webers. So that's the unit of our magnetic flux. It's called Webers, like WB, kind of like, you know, like how I remember like duck's feet, right? Webers. Okay, some questions you might see then is, how are we going to rotate the loop of wire to get a maximum magnetic flux? Okay, so I think, how am I going to get this to maximum? So what I've got here is, I know my plane is at 50 degrees to those magnetic field lines. So I know that I need the normal to be parallel, right? So I want the normal here to be parallel to my field lines. So what I know, if the normal needs to be parallel, I know the plane has to be perpendicular. So I need to get somehow this plane to be perpendicular to field lines. So I need to rotate this in the clockwise direction. I want to rotate in the clockwise direction to get that to become 90. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate clockwise by 40 degrees. If we rotate clockwise by 40 degrees, that's going to end up making this angle 90 and our normal parallel to our field lines. And that's where we're going to get a maximum. So again, what can't stress this enough, because this question, this topic comes up quite a lot in the exams, and it'll always talk about the normal or the plane being either parallel or perpendicular field lines. So I'd highly recommend you just learn this diagram, and then when you see the question magnetic flux, don't even read the question yet, just sketch that little diagram in your test on the side of it. So my magnetic field lines, a loop, and then put your normal and say that you want the normal to be parallel. So normal, parallel is a maximum. So just always draw this little quick sketch before you try the question, so you have this to refer to. Okay, so it's a good one to learn. So if you find this helpful, just remember you can check out our lessons at the myaspace.co.uk website.